Mr. Chairman, I want to recognize the horrific event that unfolded late last night in Las Vegas, where a gunman opened fire at a crowd of concert goers and killed at least 58 and wounded more than 500. We have no idea why. He thought that was the thing he wanted to do. But more than 500 rushed to hospitals, totals that local officials expect will rise as we learn more. But this is already the worst mass shooting in the modern United States history. In this craze, the crowd was able to hear the gunshots and many were able to run toward safety. It is unfathomable to think about what could have happened had the shooter used a silencer. The gun lobby, working with its allies in Congress, is actually working right now to advance a bill called the SHARE Act that would make silencers easier to buy, I guess to protect the ears of the mass killer, I assume. But I would certainly ask that as we debate that we try to give at least a fighting chance to the victims, and that the first responders would have a chance to find where the shots are coming from. About a decade and a half ago, I think, I procured for the police department in Rochester and Buffalo a system called ShotSpotter, which within seconds informs the police department of a shooting in high crime areas. It is so sensitive that they can tell if the gunshot came from the passenger side or the driver's side. In many cases, they are able to get to the scene of that shooting before the perpetrators leave. They couldn't do that at all if all guns had silencers. I think easier access to silencers is one of the last few things on the wish list that it hasn't already gotten from Congress, because everything it wants, it gets. They're trying to pass this bill while claiming the sound of gunshots hurts the shooter's ears. Now, what about innocent victims that could be in the sights of a madman with a gun? The children like we saw at Sandy Hook, or concert goers like we saw last night. If the streets of America are going to be turned into a virtual war zone, please give us a fighting chance to know where our deaths are coming from. The tragedy in Las Vegas should show every one of us the dangers of passing the bill, and I hope it never comes to the floor of the House. Because members of Congress are in a very unique position. We're legislators. Unlike members of the clergy or the grief counselors, we're in a position to do more than offer condolences and to help people work through their pain. We have the chance to do something about gun violence epidemic that is tearing our country apart. Many Americans saw this terrible news before breakfast this morning. If we wanted to, this chamber could have started to take action to prevent the next mass shooting before families sat down for dinner tonight. But now it's past 5 o'clock, and I'm sure we won't. The Congressional Research Service estimates that there are more than 300 million guns in America today for a country of 323 million people. The United States stands alone as the only country on the face of the earth to constantly see these large-scale shootings. Our nation has now reached the point where people can't go to church, the movie theater, a concert, elementary school, anywhere without the fear of gun violence. After the mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, when the victims were 5 and 6 years old, we swore that that would never happen again. Never, never again. And I believe that, because many of us as parents and grandparents couldn't even fathom the notion that those little children in Newtown, Connecticut could not go home, come back home from going to school that morning. But Congress has stood by as acts of gun violence have happened over and over again. Even bipartisan measures to strengthen our background check system and keep people on the terrorist watch list and on the no-fly list, the two things that should be the easiest things in the world for us to do if you're on a list as a terrorist, and you should not be on the fly list, or to be able to purchase firearms. But they do. And how many of the persons who commit these mass murders we think are not quite mentally able to handle guns, and yet they do. And why are assault weapons on the street? 90% of the public doesn't want them there. Some have suggested that when Congress failed to act after those 20 children, those tiny little persons just before Christmas lost their lives at Sandy Hook, that the fight to combat gun violence was lost. Millions of families today hope that they are wrong. It's past time for us to get some backbone here and protect the people we represent. The will of the American people should be stronger than the might of the gun lobby. Let me close by saying my heart goes out to the people of Las Vegas, to everyone across Nevada, to all of Americans.